let's start today off with a question. I'm just gonna read the bullet points so I don't spill it looking at my phone. But serious, not serious. For one, says he lost 30 pounds. Hell, freaking yeah! But his main question, and this is just straight out of the comment section, but a good enough topic just to make it the full on the way to the gym sort of conversation, is how do I deal with the loneliness of being really consistent and totally locked in and not just going out partying all the time. It's like, how do I deal with the FOMO? And to that I can kind of only I'm sort of hypothesizing here. I'm not really the type of guy to get a ton of FOMO. I mean, even the first couple videos I made, half of my kind of shtick at the time was like, or not shtick, but like something I was kind of, I'd bring up pretty consistently because I was at college, and my school was kind of a party school just because it's in the middle of nowhere. So there's nothing, like you drive 15 minutes any direction, everything looks like this. So the town itself, and I'd say town, not city, was pretty much all that was close. Like Cincinnati was like 45 minutes away. Nobody's going down there for anything, at least not a lot. But I'm at a party school, so that's all I'm seeing all the time. I'm driving home from this 24-hour gym, and I had like a weird nocturnal sleep schedule because all the classes were online for a while and like everything was asynchronous, so you could kind of come up with your own routine. But I'm driving back, back from like a crazy leg day or whatever. This is back, 2020, 2023, 2023-ish. 2024? I think 2023, 2024-ish, that sort of time period. So I just finished a crazy leg day. It's like 2 a.m. or something, or 1:30. So I'm driving home, and I'm like, let's drive through town. Let's see what's going on, at least during the weekend. And just a line around the block to get into like the, not really a bar, it's kind of a club, like huge floor and everything else. Just like it's like the club of the city almost. And that was the scene almost, So the way I look at it is, and really I never really felt like I was missing out, there's a couple angles to look at this from, so give me a second to kind of get through them. But just on like a initial reaction basis, I never really looked at that and thought, fuck, I gotta get in there, man. Shit, what am I doing? I just spent my Friday night getting a chest pump. What's wrong with me? No, I never had that feeling. But that's good for me because I'm just like a nut about the gym. So it's like, even in high school when I started working out, before I had the results that would kind of like validate the amount of time and energy I was spending in the gym. Like right now, if somebody who didn't even know me, like never seen the Sam video or anything, you saw me come to a restaurant and I ordered like 4 plain chicken breasts, no oil, no whatever, and they saw me eating that, visually, just from being kind of big, that's not a surprise. Yeah, of course that guy's gonna eat like that, So it's just always kind of, the trade-off has never even existed in my head, Like if some of my friends were gonna text me like, oh, we're gonna go do this, that, and the other, and I said, I'm working out, bro. We can hang out later or something, but I'm not going out. That's just kind of, how I've sort of rolled. But if you want to take it in more of like a hypothetical, argumentative take, well, what's a good way to at least find out where you might stand on 2 sort of opposing ideas? And an easy way to do it, I think, is to take both to the extreme. So instead, if the question is, all right, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to regret not going out and partying and working out, because the argument's always like, oh, I'm only going to be in college for this long, or blah 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 blah, and whatever. And this isn't a rhetorical answer. Like, this is something for you to think of for yourself. And it's okay. Well, let's fast forward a year. what do I wish I spent a lot of my free time doing? And this is just in the balance of going out versus staying locked in, and everything that goes along with it. Your diet, your training, your consistency, your sleep. We all kind of get the back and forth. So, if in a year, would you rather have spent I'd say every Friday, Saturday night is kind of classic. Nobody's getting completely wasted on a Sunday if they've got to wake up for school the next day. So typically Friday, Saturday, sometimes a Thursday in there. Maybe you had a Friday, maybe it's some kind of holiday that makes Friday off or a Monday off or something like that. Would you rather spend every one of those kind of opportunities just going out, or would you have rather spent them working out? Right? So is the answer super clear? It depends on the person. If you're kind of more of a barstool style guy, you're probably going to want to go out a bit more, right? And I'm not going to deny the social aspect. We're not freaking black bears or brown bears or whichever one is like the solitary one. I think you got to get out there. So just as a little bit of a tip, if you can overlap the gym with being around people you like, well, that definitely freaking helps. I never felt like my social battery was, I guess that's kind of the opposite way to phrase that. But I never felt like my social activity was lacking, or is lacking even now, just because I've spent so much time in the gym. For one, because I like it, but also I get to see people I like at the gym. When I go do cardio at whatever gym's kind of around, I get to see people I like. We end up chatting anyway. And if you're at college, which is kind of the primary demographic for this question, well, your rec center is packed. There is nothing as, I guess that's not true, but there's not a ton of gyms where it's always filled with people your age. Everybody's pretty amped about lifting. Like a rec center gym at a college versus just a regular public commercial gym, rec center gym wins every freaking day, at least from my experience. I never came into my rec center for a workout and said, man, I don't know anyone in here. Just because if you go for long enough, you start to kind of build this sort of crew of regulars. And same thing at your normal gym too. I mean, the regulars are always there. It's just the only way you get to kind of know who they are is if you yourself are also a regular, right? So just think about that. Like if I could go back in time for me and think, all right, Sam, you didn't go out at all for your whole college experience. Would you have rather undid that and then went out, X days a week? And no, not really, not freaking really, right? But everything in moderation. You can kind of, it's not like I'm saying your gains are completely screwed if you go out drinking every so often, but it doesn't help. It doesn't really help. So if you can kind of ease up, then that's a good situation gains wise. But of course I'm going to say that because that's my whole fucking thing, But everybody knows it's not something you should be really getting into too hard. I mean, even when you talk about, or if somebody's trying to convince you to come out with them or whatever, it's the way that it's argued is never like, oh, dude, come on, man, this is gonna be. I can't even come up with like the exact argument that somebody would say, but it's always like, come on, one night won't hurt that bad. Like as if it's well understood across the board that this is essentially the opposite of being locked in. But the argument's like, come on, it's not going to be that bad. But the way that I look at that is, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. How often is that argument going to work on you to the point where now it works every time, right? And then it's like this would be like a clippable moment in like a live stream, which is like a weird premise to say a hypothetical, but like imagine somebody, all right, man, I'm gonna get real, dude, this summer 2026 we're gonna make this shit happen, and then one of his other cronies on the side like, I don't know. Nobody ices each other anymore. You remember that with the Smirnoff Ice when they like hide it in a backpack? But imagine that. He's like, hey, check this out. And just the visual cue. All right, I'll start locking in next week. So do whatever you're going to do. I'm not your dad. But if you want to be, if you want legitimate in the gym progress, the more time you're spending in the gym, the better. But that's kind of on you, man. That's an easy decision for me to make, to say that's just not how I roll. But if you've got a little bit of kind of this inner turmoil, then in the sense that you're like, okay, do I want to go out with these guys, or do I want to stay in and do my cardio? Like, that's kind of, it's not something I can exactly tell you the answer for, right? You kind of gotta think for a second and say, what do I think I will have, or what decision do I think I'll be able to sit with well going forward? Because as much as you are you in this current state, you're doing whatever you're doing right now in the present, you are also you in 10 years. You are you in 6 months. I think some of you, there's definitely a few of you where you're probably wishing that you had locked into studying for your final exams right about now, earlier, and that's a situation of like future you suffering from catering to present you, right? So if you care about how you're going to feel later about any given subject, then just keep that in mind. Instead of thinking, okay, in the moment, what am I going to enjoy more? Add another perspective of, okay, is anything I'm doing right now something I'm going to regret? And if that's the case, you're going to save yourself some trouble by not doing that currently. Even if in the moment that's not like the most, enjoyable hype thing to do, purely for the sake that you won't regret it later on, right? So there's something to think about. Just have this kind of future tense in mind when you're making decisions, which right now is what I'm doing, because I'm very excited to see my future self bulked up and, let's just say massive. Let's put a title on it. Massive is a description I want to be able to call myself or describe myself with going forward. And I already feel pretty big now, so it's going to be even wilder. But no more of that kind of, no more chatting about that. What are we going to work out? Some back. And I was watching, I was looking at a lot of comments from the last video, because I had asked for essentially just a breakdown of your training logic. Like, right out of chest day and explain, just like right out the sets, and like explain why. And I read a few of those, and I saw one which kind of made me sort of circle back to a thought process that I've had, but kind of just tabled. And that's about back training. And I think I might need to not exactly increase my volume for my back training, but more so kind of treat my back a little bit more as individual muscle groups rather than just one homogeneous thing, right? Which isn't exactly how I think about it, because obviously you've got your mid traps, you got your rhomboids, you got your lats. Those are pretty much the big three. And honestly, if you're doing something that's going to hit your, or I guess not your rhomboids, your teres major, I don't know, but those little fancy things right behind your rear delts, but not all the way into your mid traps. So it's just those three groups, which mainly traps and lats. If you're working your traps, you're probably squeezing your teres major a little bit if you're doing some kind of rowing action. But I think if I want to really push it in terms of my back development, then I might need to treat my back as two individual muscle groups. That mid-trap, or not even mid-trap, but just traps and lats. And maybe that's not exactly a good description. I'd say more so mid-back and lats is how I'm going to think about it. So I think I might want to go about back in that way, where instead of just thinking, okay, is my back entirely pumped? How many sets is it going to take to get it entirely pumped? Maybe doing a few workouts where I do those two sort of sections individually. like how I do arms. So for arms, I'm going to do triceps first, biceps second, or biceps first, triceps second, or go back and forth between the two until they're both fully pumped. So I think I might do the same thing with back. Do like a lat specific portion of the workout, pull downs, pullovers, whatever, and then a mid-back specific portion where I'm really trying to isolate my upper back rather than kind of, just hit everything all at once, if you sort of feel me. Now, of course, if you do get a complete back pump, I think it was a good workout. Right? You did a few rows, you did a few pull downs, you did a few pullovers, but I think I'm going to be a little more intentional with those two. So I'm going to say, all right, my lats are fully pumped. Did 6 sets of direct lat work. Now let's move on to mid-back work and then do the same thing. Or, vice versa, do mid-back first, then lats first. Or like a combination of the two of, mid-back row, pull down, mid-back row, pull down. Something along those lines. And then we'll see how we feel. So this will probably be a slightly higher volume back day, purely due to the fact that I'm going to think about it like that, rather than just as, my back as a whole. And then we'll see how we feel. Because your back's a pretty big-ass muscle. And I think that logic is pretty sound. Like, if I'm doing shoulders, I'm not just thinking, okay, 8 or so sets for my entire shoulder. Like, no, you got side delts, you got rear delts, you got front delts. So if you want to really thrash your shoulders, you need shoulder growth. Well, then you're going to treat each muscle individually, or each portion of the muscle individually. Just because they're one big unit doesn't mean there aren't these individual subsections that need direct work. So I think that's going to work out. And then I'll also work into some lower back supported rows as well. Probably not today, just because I'm gonna ease into it. So I'm gonna stick with more chest supported rows. But I think some bent over barbell rows going forward is gonna be solid, just as like an overall compound back lift. But in either case, no matter what ends up going down, I can guarantee that within about, if it's a little more volume, it might be an hour, but definitely within an hour of stepping foot into the gym, my back will be wider, to the point where I'll probably feel a little silly in these seats, because they kind of have like a little lip on both sides, like to keep you from sliding back and forth. So if my back's fully pumped, I might sit in here like this, because I won't sit into it as deep. That'll be a good feeling. Yeah, as soon as your surroundings stop accommodating for you when you're pumped, you're definitely on the right freaking track. So I think nothing else to say. Let's just get this back day freaking started. So with the plan, and I know what I want to do. I'm going to do all mid-back first. So I'm going to start with this upper back focus row. Maybe do something else. We'll see what I think is going to really connect with like my mid traps, and then switch to pull downs. So I'm not thinking elbows deep. I'm not thinking pull my elbows down towards my towards my hips, like on a typical kind of freaking kind of just hitting a row in a way that works your lats. I'm kind of thinking pull up and around, like full stretch, of course, at the bottom, and then I want my elbows to touch each other behind my back. So obviously they'll never touch, but that's sort of how I'm imagining pulling up. So I'm going to start with a heavy set. The next one I'll drop a plate and I'll hold it. But this is a movement you're pretty freaking strong on if you ever have access to this machine. All right, I lied. One more of those with this weight, then I'll drop to a 4-plate set. Go. Okay. Let's drop a plate. So this is going to be like a full-on, honestly, I might start with like a 2-second hold. And then we'll just burn out with partials once I can't actually hold at the top anymore. Yeah. Okay. Oh, shit. Oh. That was good. Let's do some seated cable row next with a much wider grip to change it up. 2. Okay. One more of these. Same weight. This. Okay. Oh, shit. Let's do one more of those upper back focus rows. Then we can switch to lats. Okay. Okay. Oh man. All right. Let's get a pull down started. This pull down is very heavy. The weight is further from the pivot point than the handle. So even though I only have 2 plates, feels like 3, maybe 2.5. I don't know. Either way, it's heavy. Come on. Yeah. I'm not done. Ooh. Ooh. Let's just do one of those. That was good, but I think I'll be better off doing a lighter machine that doesn't build up so much momentum. But let's do some pullovers first. Machine, not cable. So not too heavy, but I'm gonna start to feel it soon. Like the first 5 reps, it won't feel that wild, but by the 10th rep, it'll start getting real. It's kind of a sneaky fatigue. There we go. Yes. Oh, goodness. Ooh, okay. Let's do some narrow grip pull downs. I feel like I haven't done that for a while. Not too heavy, just heavy enough. Two. Three. Oh shit. All right. One more, a little heavier. That is way too fucking heavy. Okay. All right. I think that is freaking all. Let's see how we're looking. So that was what? 5 sets of rows. Pull down. Pull over, pull over. Pull down. Pull down. Yeah. 10 setter. I think that's about right. I feel like I really hit everything. So let's see if I pumped everything. Spoiler alert, I think I did. There we go. Yeah, slightly higher volume back day, but I think a more accurate description would be more of a proper volume back day. I think like sometimes I'll go back and forth and do like a lat focus day and then a mid back focus day, but I think I've got to completely split my mind, left brain, right brain, or at least my back, into like, okay, these rowing sets are purely trap biased, and I want these pull downs to be purely lat biased. There's a little overlap from both. Every one of those rows had some lat activation, and all those pullover, pull down movements had a little bit of mid back. But I think if I can separate them out, instead of multitasking my back training, it'll be more like very direct lats, very direct mid back. So I think with that sort of mindset change, I've got some more gains coming. Now, obviously, every off season, just by training hard and eating, you're going to grow a bit. But it's good to take little notes and make these adjustments bulk by bulk, cut by cut. Every time you do something, not only from the mental experience of having done it, but also just like the subconscious like repeatability of tasks, you're going to get better at it. So just make sure you're always trying to adjust accordingly. If you've been lifting for a year, you should be more experienced at the end of that year than you were in month 6. Same thing for if you've been lifting for 2 years or 3 years, right? So all that information and experience should add up, and you should be able to apply it at least reasonably well. And holy crap, I'm feeling like a freak show. Still got some veins in my back. Let's actually hit some shots here. This was a good lift and a very good pump to freaking boot. So I mean, you tell me, is that a lat spread or freaking what? Sweet. Oh my goodness. So, I can say with certainty, I'm pumped to SHIT. And now I've got to do a little Planet Fitness pit stop for some cardio. Sometimes I like doing it in here or in the basement gym, but it's kind of fun going to a gym that's actually busy. It makes the cardio easier because other people around you are bringing it. But let's jump to a little post-lift pre-cardio discussion of the car. All right, I pulled a classic blunder. That being leaving my headphones in the car. But all it took was about 1 second of walking in the door to realize it. So all I had to do was flip back around, plug them in, and hop on the bike for a quick 30. So 30 minutes, and I think I got to adjust my intensity. So, reason being, I feel like now that I'm just a bigger freaking person, the 300 calories I may burn, or that the machine might say that I may burn back when I was like 200, well, that might not be the same. I think I got to up it a little bit. So instead of aiming for 10 calories a minute, now I'm going a little bit higher, more like 11, more like 11 and a half ish. So finishing stats on the that Planet Fitness, I think it's a Matrix seated bike, a recumbent bike, was 30 minutes, difficulty level 13, average RPM around 85-ish, and that put me at 350 something calories in 30 minutes. So a little bit more than just 10 per minute, but sometimes it's tricky. You can't really just base your cardio off of what the machine says. That is, if you're using different machines. If you always use the same cardio machine, well, it's no longer a variable, so you can kind of keep that number at least as like a gauge that you're aiming for. Like, I've seen guys sit on the cardio bike, and I know I'm kind of nitpicking here because I'm always just saying, just get on the bike, just try it. But you can't just sit there for 30 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever doing like negative difficulty, like difficulty level 1, and then I look over, I take a peek, I'm not just totally in my own world, and I'll see like this just regular ass dude. It's different if I look over, the person's 80 years old. Obviously they're killing it just by showing up. I'm not going to look at them and think, oh, you're not going hard enough. But if it's like somebody who should be kind of pushing it on the bike, or at least I assume that they want to, and I'm looking, difficulty 1, they've been pedaling for 20 minutes, just really slow, like 40 RPM, like half the speed that I'd be doing. Not that my speed is the speed, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a reference. And then calories burned, 20 minutes, 60. I don't think that guy's heart rate got that much higher above baseline, and that's kind of the whole point to actually have cardio be effective. It's getting your heart rate up to a certain level. So I actually found my Whoop. I lost it for months, and I don't think I care to wear it all the time, like for consistent stats like that. I don't know, maybe I will. I'm not used to it now. I gotta get reused to it on my right wrist. But having a heart rate tracking device of some sort is pretty solid while you're doing your cardio, because that's all that I feel really matters. It's not there are arguments about Stairmasters and like step mills and things along those lines for like bodybuilding preps, which is kind of a little bit of a different level of things. But just basic cardio for the purpose of getting your cardio in, it doesn't matter if you're doing the treadmill or the bike or the elliptical or any combination of whichever ones are in your gym, as long as you're getting your heart rate elevated for those 30 minutes. So, I mean, even if you're just hooping and you look at your heart rate for the last 30 minutes and it was average 130, that counts. That is solid. That's cardio. So just something to think about. If you've never messed with trying to track that, it definitely at least helps you get an idea of how hard you should really be going. Like, imagine you think you're doing productive cardio. Every day you get on this machine, you do it for this much time, you think you're really hitting it, but then maybe you get your get something to track your heart rate, and your heart rate's only like 20 beats above your baseline. That might not cut it. So to be a little more basic, the way that I kind of gauge it beyond just my heart rate, when I put my hands on the pads and see what the machine says I'm at, is after you're doing cardio for long enough, you do just get an understanding of like what your normal cardio effort feels like. Like, I'm trying to get myself going, but if I feel like I'm making myself winded, that's too much. It's kind of this little back off from winding yourself but not doing nothing. There's that little sweet spot. So time wise, by about 15 minutes in, if I start feeling some sweat drops, and then by about 30 minutes in, I'm really sweating, maybe I got some drips coming off my elbows, I might have a little sweat pile on both sides of me on the machine, that's usually solid. But that's not always the best reference, because what if it's really cold in your gym? Well, then you're probably not going to sweat. You're going to stay cool. So just I guess I'm just nitpicking for anybody who actually is doing their cardio, which in and of itself is nitpicking because most people freaking don't. But getting back to that, getting back to back, that was a really good lift. I think that style is gonna I don't know what word I was just thinking of. Persist. I think that style is going to persist, where I think of back as two muscle groups rather than just one cohesive one. I think that'll kind of at least help me maintain a continued baseline stimulation of both parts of my back, upper, mid back, and my lats on a week by week basis. Because I didn't really think about it like this before, but just being a little like loose with how structured my back training has been, which it didn't feel loose at the time, but coming in and just thinking, all right, let's do some upper back, let's just do some lats. Like, I think it was just a little bit, just not ideal. Which going forward now, I think this approach will be a little better, being able to check off 2 boxes instead of 1. So instead of just thinking, all right, let's hit back, 1 checkbox, check it off. Now I've got 2. So that's going to be upper back with those rows, and then lats, be it pullover and pull downs and things along those lines. So one change that that I really focused on today, by trying to make all those sets of rows be more mid upper back focused, was kind of just as simple as flaring my elbows out a little bit more. Not like all the way out to 90 degrees like something like this, but just out enough where my hands were pulling the cable towards basically the center of my traps, rather than kind of towards my belly button. Like if I was sitting doing those seated cable rows, let's say I had a neutral grip instead of that, or a pronated grip instead of that neutral grip, just more of a regular row handle. If I was doing those, and rather than pull the bar up towards my chest, and I pull the bar more towards like my center stomach or so, that center stomach line gets a lot more lats involved in a row. So instead of pulling my arm up here, which kind of gets a lot of mid-back, I'd be pulling down, which if you just highlight like your upper arm part of that movement, what is that pulling down? Well, that's just a pull down. It's the bottom of the rep of a pull down, but that's sort of what it is. It's that lat activating action. So, I kind of think about it like your lats are doing a lot of this, and then your mid-back is doing a lot of this, So that's all I was kind of thinking of. Instead of trying to pull my scapula or my shoulder blades down and together, I wanted to pull them back and together, if you kind of feel me. So that's a little bit tricky to visualize. Like, I think the guys who have a really good mind-muscle connection with their back, and they feel like they're pulling with their lats, not with their hands, they've got a good grasp of what's going on. Like if you ever look up like an anatomy chart or something, and just look at what your back looks like, where do your lats tie in, where are your traps, how do your scapula and your shoulder blades work, can you actually feel them move? Like even just sitting, just the action of doing a lat spread is opening up your shoulder blades, and then relaxing is kind of like retracting them. Just getting a good grasp of that is going to improve your training. That's kind of the mind muscle connection thing. It sort of just gets thrown around, but it really is this kind of just skill in and of itself, where like just by sitting, like, can you manually flex your hamstrings? Can you everybody can squeeze their glutes, that's kind of basic. Can you get your lats flexed, like just by sitting? Like, can you pop your pecs? Like things like that. The more you work out, obviously the more hard signals you're sending throughout your body to freaking flex, the better. So it's something that's worth working on. And I feel like you don't exactly, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of just like, I don't want to say a skill you'll awaken. This isn't like a freaking shonen or anything, but it is something that'll just kind of click, I think, if you focus on it. I remember the first time I ever felt my chest. Like I'd been lifting for a few months at this point, or yeah, definitely a few months. But the first time I ever felt my chest really doing the work in an incline press was in the basement at my parents' house. I had a gym set up down there, rack, dumbbells. I didn't have a cable set up yet. I was working on it, but I'm doing incline bench. Not even 2 plates. This was like 185. 185 was hard working weight at this time. And I could see myself in the mirror because I put a mirror up, which really helped. Like if your gym doesn't have your incline bench or your Smith machine facing a mirror, then I think they've got to reorganize, you know. But I'm sitting there doing incline and just, I don't know what I did. I didn't feel like I did anything special when I was doing these reps, but rather than feel like I was pushing the bar with my hands, which is sort of our first instinct when we think of pushing anything. It's like this tricep focus, kind of like, you know, almost a close grip bench sort of feeling. Like that's very natural. Like that's just a natural instinct response. But something about it, I just started to feel my chest pull my arm upward, which is a very different sort of the description of what a press is. Because with any press, I mean, you're thinking push, but what's really going on if you're trying to target your chest is you relax your triceps and your chest pulls your arm across your torso, and then by holding the bar however you're holding it, it results in a pushing action, you know. Like just this will be my last little bit before we talk about something else, but there are no pushing muscles in your body. Nothing presses. There is no pressing action. It just doesn't happen. Your entire what's the word, physiology? That doesn't sound right, but your entire build is just this huge setup of essentially like pulleys, you know. So not really, but all you're doing in a curl is your bicep is contracting and pulling your arm towards your shoulder. When you're doing a leg extension or when you're doing a squat, you're not pushing the ground away. What your quad is doing is pulling your shin towards, actually not even your shin, it's pulling your kneecap towards the top of your quad. Same thing with your hamstrings. What are your lats doing? They're pulling your arm in. So if you can think about it in that way and just have like a little bit of a mental image of what muscles are being worked in what way and how are they working, it makes it a lot easier to specifically target them instead of anything else. You know, when I'm doing a curl, if I'm not like if I just am trying to do a curl like purely for its own sake and not really thinking about it, I'm going to use some forearm too, because your forearms help with the curling action. But if I'm being more intentional with the set, then I'm going to, you know, hold onto the dumbbell enough to hold it, but relax my forearm and try to only send signals to my biceps to be the primary mover, right? So with biceps, pretty easy. Everybody can flex their bicep. Triceps get a little tricky, but for the most part, we all know how to do it. Within your torso is where things get a little tricky. I'd say you don't necessarily need to have an awesome mind-muscle connection to get a great shoulder pump. But with chest and back, I think it's definitely worth thinking about. And I don't mean thinking about like just, you know, casually thinking about it. I mean like during the workout itself, manually thinking, okay, I'm not just doing a pull down, I'm pulling my lats, or I'm pulling my upper arm towards my lats rather than just pulling the handle. So you've almost got to disconnect yourself from your primary connection to the weight and just, you know, think about your hand as a hook while the rest of you is what really pulls the weight down. Now, that's not new information. We've heard the hand of a hook, or think of your hand as a hook tip, basically, I don't know, forever. Probably like early 2000s was when somebody thought of that, if not before. But worth reiterating just because sometimes it gets overlooked. The plan now, food-wise, not totally certain. I'll freaking see. I gotta see what's in the fridge. But I think I want to lay out in the sun. It's finally a warm and sunny day, so get some. I guess I can skip my vitamin D gummy tonight because I'm gonna get it organically from some UV exposure. So I'll finally get a little bit less pale, not so tan as the spray tan. That was a little bit wild, but somewhere in between will be a good little sweet spot. But that was a really good back day, and I think I'm on track to make with that adjustment to make some more solid back gains going forward in this off season. So that's 2 W's in one day, or in one lift. For one, having a really good lift, but 2, having made a change, or at least now I'm going to change my trajectory with my back training, and I'm going to see if it works. And that's don't devalue that just because everybody's going to say, okay, this is the best and this is bad. You got to try it for yourself. At the end of the day, try a certain kind of training that you think is going to work. Did it work? Look at the results, make adjustments, repeat the process. The only issue with that setup is the fact that that's over the course of months, and we want results over the course of days. So I guess my ending statement for today is be patient. Be patient. Set yourself up with at least a routine that you think is good, based on whatever videos and knowledge and bro science and in the gym chat that you have, and then just stick with it. Stick freaking with it. But that's all I got. So I'll see you tomorrow.